It was a bright morning in Manhattan, the kind of morning that promised nothing more than the ordinary rhythms of the city. Cars honked, subways rumbled beneath the streets, and the chatter of neighbors carried faintly through the apartment windows. But in one small apartment on the west side, a 6-year-old boy named Eitan Patz kissed his mother goodbye and set out on what should have been an ordinary walk to school. Eitan had a backpack slung over his shoulders, a brown lunch bag tucked under his arm, and a spirit filled with the innocent curiosity that only children possess. Did anyone truly understand, in that fleeting moment, that his journey would not follow the familiar path he had taken countless times before? Could anyone have imagined that a city so alive, so teeming with people, could hold such a profound silence waiting just for him? The streets were alive with the ordinary sounds of New York, the chatter of passers-by, the occasional bark of a dog, the screech of a distant subway. But as the minutes stretched into hours, Eitan never arrived at school. Panic began to ripple through the community, parents whispering to one another, children sensing something amiss without understanding the gravity. What happens when a child simply vanishes in the heart of a city that never sleeps? How do we explain the absence of a 6-year-old boy whose small steps had been so confidently imprinted on the sidewalks he walked every day? The investigation that followed was unprecedented at the time. Newspapers plastered the city with Eitan's image, his bright eyes, his small, round face, his innocent smile. Each photograph told a story of possibility and vulnerability, of a life full of promise that now hung in the balance. Flyers appeared in stores, on lampposts in every neighborhood. "Have you seen this boy?" People began to remember details they might otherwise have ignored. Did they see him leave the apartment that morning? Did someone notice anything unusual along his route to school? In the chaotic energy of Manhattan, memory itself became a fragile tool for the desperate search. Every lead, every tip, carried a weight of hope and dread. Citizens formed search parties, volunteers combed the streets, and the police tirelessly pursued avenues of inquiry that often led nowhere. The city held its breath, united in concern, yet fragmented by uncertainty. Could a child truly disappear so completely in a place as crowded and watched as New York City? The question haunted every parent, every teacher, every neighbor who had once crossed paths with Eitan. How could the ordinary city life, the routines we trust, become a landscape for something so incomprehensible? Weeks turned into months, and the media attention intensified. Television crews, photographers, journalists, all converged on the story, amplifying both the panic and the empathy of the public. People everywhere were compelled to ask themselves, what would I do if this were my child? Could I have prevented it? Would I recognize danger if it stood right in front of me? Eitan's disappearance became more than just the story of a single family. It became a mirror reflecting the fears, hopes, and responsibilities of society itself. What does it mean to lose someone so young in a world that is supposed to protect innocence? As years passed, the case remained unsolved, a haunting shadow that refused to fade. Every call, every tip, seemed to carry a glimmer of hope, quickly extinguished by the reality of investigation after investigation ending in disappointment. The story of Eitan Patz became a template for vigilance, for community action, for the legal and societal mechanisms that would later attempt to prevent such tragedies. Do we, as humans, ever truly understand the fragility of life until it is lost? Can the pain of one family awaken the collective conscience of a city or a nation? In the quiet moments, in the streets where Eitan once walked, his presence lingered. Parents would recount the story to their own children, urging them to hold hands, to be cautious, to understand the weight of responsibility in a world where innocence is never guaranteed. And yet beyond the fear and the grief, there remained a pulse of hope, stubborn and persistent. Could hope survive where certainty has vanished? Could the smallest acts of remembrance, the continued search, somehow honor the life that was interrupted? Years passed, and the city never forgot Eitan Patz. His image remained on posters, in articles, in the memories of everyone who had watched a small boy walk into the morning, never to return. Time, which often heals, here only sharpened the edges of absence. Families, friends, neighbors, all carried the weight of a single question: what happened to Eitan? What unseen force, what shadowed moment had taken him from the bustling streets of Manhattan and left behind only silence and sorrow? Even as new generations grew up in a city that never sleeps, his story lingered, whispering through the corners of schools, playgrounds, and apartments where children learned to walk safely under watchful eyes, yet always aware that danger could hide in the most familiar places. The years brought developments, arrests, confessions, and trials. The name Pedro Hernandez entered the story, a man eventually convicted of Eitan's murder decades later. Justice in some form had arrived, yet the emptiness could never truly be filled. The city, the family, the world were left with fragments, memories, pictures, stories, and the persistent ache of what could have been. How do we measure loss when the physical presence is gone, but the echoes remain? How can a life that ended so early continue to shape law, awareness, and compassion across generations? Eitan's disappearance became a turning point. Amber Alerts, child safety programs, and nationwide awareness campaigns drew inspiration from the heartbreak his family endured. Every step taken to protect children in the years since was, in some way, a tribute to Eitan, a promise that no child would walk alone, unseen, unprotected. And yet, even with progress, the human heart struggles with the same questions that have always haunted us. Could this happen again? Are we truly vigilant? Have we learned the lessons of the past? Or do we still walk blind in the streets of a world full of unseen dangers? In quiet moments, his mother would tell the story of Eitan, not just as a tragedy, but as a reminder to cherish every morning, every smile, every small hand held, every ordinary walk that is in fact extraordinary. And for all who listen, the story becomes more than a tale of loss. It becomes a call to awareness, a call to action, a call to never forget. What will you do with the awareness that comes from knowing Eitan's story? How will you honor his memory in your own life, in your own community? If this story has moved you, if it has stirred something deep within, then I invite you to subscribe, to follow, to join a community that remembers, that seeks truth, that honors lives lost too soon, and that refuses to let stories like Eitan Patz's fade silently into history. Because remembering is not just an act of mourning, it is an act of power, of vigilance, and of love. And in remembering, we carry forward a light that no darkness can ever fully extinguish.